In this video, we're discussing how body length affects spring stretch. When you're using a reformer, the length of your limbs, the length of your body, will determine how far you stretch the springs. The total distance that you move the carriage when you're going within your full range of motion will determine how much the spring stretches. And if we were to look at people based on the length of their body, we determined that people with longer bodies would stretch the spring further. And as we discussed earlier, spring stretch is incremental. So the more you stretch the spring, the more resistance you get. So that means then that for anybody with a longer body that stretches the spring further, they're going to get more resistance while doing the same exercise. Now this is interesting if we look at what the challenge of an exercise is, because whenever you're using spring tension as the load, what we're doing is we're using the resistance of the springs to challenge the body. Now anyone with a longer body would be stretching the springs further, so they'd actually be getting more of a challenge. Now for those people with longer bodies, if we're doing an exercise which we're using body weight as the load and less tension is harder, because they're stretching the spring further, they'd actually get more support, and it would be easier for them when compared to other clients. So it's good to understand the relationship that body length will determine the spring stretch, and spring stretch will have an impact on how this exercise will feel. Now this also means that people with much shorter bodies will stretch the spring much less, which could also be more challenging, or it could make it easier depending on what the challenge is. So let's do that example. If you're doing an exercise in which more tension is harder and you've got a shorter body, you'll be stretching the spring less. That would make it comparatively easier. If you've got a shorter body and we're doing an exercise in which we're using body weight, stretching the spring less than the average would mean you're getting less support than the average, so that would make it comparatively harder. So basically, because we've all got different bodies, it's really good to understand what will influence the experience, and body length is definitely something that will influence the experience.